Hello there, guys. Welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. Today we are joined by Graham Lewis, who is an experienced commercial leader in the hospitality industry. Graham, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
It's great to have you on the show. Now, these episodes are all about you guys as candidates that are on the market right now, that are experiencing it firsthand. And it's all about giving you the platform to give us a bit of an insight into what you've seen and what your experience has been like, but also understanding a bit about you. So I suppose, Graham, first off, it'd be really interesting to understand a bit more about you and your background, and I suppose what your most recent role was.
Yeah, certainly. So like most people, I did a degree in hospitality management, left university, thought I would be a general manager of a flagship hotel within 5 minutes. Turns out I was a night auditor and then a night manager for a small Hilton National. But it was a fantastic grounding in hospitality management. I had some great mentors. I had a fantastic general manager who, because they had all of the constraints of a 4-star hotel, didn't really have the budget for a huge payroll. So went out and hired young 20-year-old people with the right attitude and took a personal interest in their development. And I had mentors like Chris Silcock, Ben George, Jane Smith. And with that, I was promised within 1 year I would have a management job during the day. And in 2 years, I'd be one of the senior leaders. And the general manager was true to their word. I ended up being a reservations manager. And then I went on to a program called the Front Office Centre of Excellence, which was set up by a lady called Kim Kapadia. This was fantastic. It was basically top 10 revenue leaders, top 10 want to be revenue leaders, and we spent time with each of them learning various skills. And that was kind of my grounding, and that was all with Hilton. Worked my way up with Hilton, doing sales roles, marketing roles, predominantly revenue management, until I got to a project leader role. And that was fantastic. That was problem solving, that was troubleshooting, that was teaching people revenue. So that was great. So I did that. I was with Hilton for the lion's share of my career. Then I left, joined a small hotel group as a cluster revenue manager. They were just starting up revenue management, so it was an opportunity to kind of put some process in place. Then I joined IHG at the Forum. Now, this is a massive beast of a hotel, I'm sure you know it. And I learned a lot there, predominantly aircrew. But also, IHG at the time had some serious heavy hitters in the world of revenue. There was Brian Hicks and sort of Gower Tan, Patrick Wimble. So I really learned a huge amount about revenue, and I had the opportunity to go with IHG to the Middle East. Now, at the time, this is the global financial crisis. So at the time, I went to Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi has the highest average room rate in the world, or had the highest average room rate in the world. And they were just about to hit the crisis like everybody else. And there was a general manager there, a gentleman called James Young, who came up with the idea that most of the people in Abu Dhabi in the revenue role had only been in their jobs 2 years. They'd only ever seen upside of revenue, high demand. And there wasn't anyone in the market that had experienced a recession. So he actively went out, found someone in the UK that had been through a downturn, and he actually fought to have me shipped over and join the team. He then he paired me up with a sales leader called Syed Talian, who's a really passionate sales leader. And we completely rewrote the segmentation strategy. We completely changed all of our pricing, and we worked hand in hand, and we absolutely smashed the competition. It was a great time, because the competition basically were doing what they'd always done, and they ended up going into the price spiral as demand fell, and because we rewrote the strategy. And I think that has some connotations with what's happening today, actually. So that was great, and then I became a cluster revenue manager, paired up with some other great sales leaders, Michaela Smith, etc. And then I joined head office with IHG, based out of the Dubai office, and I was the regional revenue manager for India, Middle East, and Africa. Then I got moved to be revenue performance director for Asia, Middle East, and Africa. Now, this was really a case of being in the right place at the right time. The leaders there were putting together a brand new team to look after Asia, Middle East and Africa for ISG. And they brought in a lady called Leanne Harwood, who was inspirational in terms of spent most of her time making sure the team gelled together. And through that, we were, again, it was a fantastic team, great opportunities. And I was made Revenue Performance Director. And this was because the lady called Karen Shepherd had come up with the idea that revenue at the time there's a huge amount of strategy in revenue, but also the revenue team needed to look after the central reservations or revenue management for hire. They had to look after the systems. ISG at the time was just on its journey to getting its new central reservation system and its guest reservation system. There was a lot of strategy around revenue and a lot of information coming out of global, and some of the focus was being taken off the making money part of revenue. So she split revenue into two disciplines, what we could call the pure revenue and the revenue performance, which I headed up. And that was just about using revenue and the discipline of revenue to make money. Right. And this was a fantastic opportunity. Now, it could have been, there could have been some challenges there. I was heading up a team of 6 people who in turn looked after the revenue leaders for every single hotel across Asia, Middle East, Africa. But they also had interaction with the central reservations team, central revenue team. You also then had commercial directors who were responsible for the salespeople, and my revenue performance team were in essence the right-hand men and women for these commercial directors. So there's a lot of matrixed organisation. It could have gone wrong, but because of all this work on team leadership and bringing teams together, it worked brilliantly. And I learned a huge amount of leadership skills, and really that was probably my biggest grounding with in terms of really pure revenue. So I was Revenue Performance Director, Asia, Middle East and Africa, and then I moved on to become the Commercial Director for Southeast Asia and Korea. And this is where my focus was obviously more towards sales, marketing, distribution, as well as revenue as my sort of grounding for most decision making. So that was my career with ISG. I then came back to the UK, did some consulting work with Lightbulb Consulting. They had a big project on, asked if I would be part of the team to help with that. It was a great opportunity to join Patrick's team, albeit for a short project. So that was great opportunities. And then I joined an owner-operator company in the UK, Starboard Hotels. And that was actually really interesting because it's the first time I'd been on that side of the table, working with the owners, challenging the brands, understanding what the brands are going to give the owner. And also I got an exposure to financing, dealing with the banks, that side of asset management, which I hadn't really had massive exposure to before. Some, but not a great deal. And that kind of takes me up to date. I hope that answers the question. So it's 24 years in 2 minutes. So I hope that summarizes everything.
No, it certainly does. It certainly does. And it's great to hear sort of such a varied background for a commercial leader, because a lot of the time we usually have them, going down a very particular route. Now, I know, as we were saying, that your route was probably more biased towards revenue management, but the fact that you got that exposure to the asset management side, obviously the widest marketing, sales, and so on, as we said, that's what creates our brilliant commercial leaders in the market we have today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, no. I was just going to say, one of the nice things about certainly my time with ISG was I worked in the Dubai office, which is a sub-regional office, and I worked in the Bangkok office, which again is also sub-regional. And the nature of those, shall we say, satellite offices are that you have the new hotel opening team, you have the operations team, you have the finance team, you have a shared service team. All of these teams, you have to work together to the good of your sub-region. And so you get really exposure and you get to bounce ideas off your team members and off the people you're working with. And I think it was a huge way to learn all the different aspects of the commercial discipline as well as the wider hotel management.
No, completely learning from the experts themselves in their own fields and in their own environment. So no, completely. One thing that I sort of wanted to ask you, in terms of your experience at your level, because of course on the show by now we would have seen candidates at a graduate level through to mid-level revenue managers, and of course somebody at your level at the moment. What's your experience been like trying to find a job in this market? How have you found things? What has your experience been?
So it's been mixed, to be honest. The recruiting agents that are, quite frankly, good at their jobs and that build the relationships with the client, build the relationships with the recruiters, with the candidates. They've actually been extremely supportive, and of course they're going through their own challenges like the rest of us. And they've been very supportive. Lots of great information, lots of advice. There's a huge amount of job adverts out there that aren't real, that internal candidates have already been chosen for, and that's quite demoralising. Certainly when there's so many people on the market at the moment that you're filling out psychometric tests, you're filling out huge applications, and then it's only for no real reason because the job's already been filled. And that feels a little disingenuous when everyone's going through such a hard time. But as I said, the recruitment agents, the team members that really know how to do their job, getting huge amount of advice and guidance and support. So, and it is tough out there. Obviously, demand has dropped. That's causing hotels to relook at their payroll as a percentage of revenue. There's massive changes in head offices. Some are going for a centralized approach and laying off head office staff to kind of get economies of scale. Others are actually going for a more devolved approach to take advantage of the local business that is still sort of in the local bubbles, like the Gulf bubble or the UK bubble. So they're all taking different approaches, but it is ultimately reduction in headcount. But generally speaking, the one thing about the hospitality industry, and I have friends in other industries, is that it's a people industry. It's generally good-natured. Everybody is trying to help each other out. Everybody is sharing. And I don't think other industries get that quite as much. And that's one of the nice things about our industry. So I'm positive, but I do believe it will be a little time yet. I mean, what you're seeing is there is definitely an appetite for giving advice. There's definitely that appetite at the moment. Again, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier. There is a lot of individual hotel revenue management, great revenue leaders, but they've probably never been during a recession. The big global recession was 2008. There aren't a huge amount of individual hotel revenue leaders that were in those roles in 2008. So there is definitely an appetite, certainly for some of the smaller chains, for people with experience to give advice.
Yeah.
I suppose the flip side of that is there's a lot of people out on the market trying to give advice, and it's putting pressure on the Cogent Blues, the Lightbulb Consulting, that have been doing it for a while and are experts in their field. Wow. Personally, the experts are certainly the ones to go to in this environment. But there's definitely an appetite for that advice, and you can see that there's starting to be interest now in as markets start to open up. Not so much in the UK, but certainly globally.
I was going to say as well, you sort of said about in some cases things can get quite disheartening, which I think is going to be a common reality for a lot of people right now. Again, from your experience in this market right now, what's been keeping you motivated? Or more of I suppose a better question would be, how have you been keeping yourself motivated? Well,
to be honest, I think even though the jobs I've had have given me great variety, there is always a huge amount of travel and each day is different. There is an element when you're in the world of work of routine, of having a routine. And I think you need to keep a routine. So I have a routine. It's not, it's not laid in stone, I don't spreadsheets or timetables, but I have roughly the same time every day. I will job search the same time every day. I exercise, which I think is massively important at the moment. I reaching out to friends and colleagues and keeping those connections, spending a lot of time keeping up to date on industry articles and industry updates. I've actually been rereading some of my management books that I've had in the past. And I actually even have a set time where I do sort of the household chores that I've been meaning to do for a while, so I don't get distracted and flip from one thing to another and kind of lose focus, which you have all that advantage in the world of work. Yeah. I think keeping the connections is huge. We're a people business. No commercial leader knows everything. No revenue leader knows everything. But if you know enough people, you will have access to all of the information, and everybody's willing to help each other out. So it's easier when you're in work because you're speaking to people, you're talking to people. I think it's actually very important to put that effort into keeping those connections, and these are friends. You want to stay in contact with your friends. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I've also been with the West Berkshire Volunteer Centre. I've been doing some work with them. Not saying my wife and I are competitive, but we've turned delivering food parcels into a competitive sport. Who can take the best route, etc. But I've been doing a bit of work around that as well, which is quite nice, and it's nice to do something sort of for the community as well. Where traditionally, with sort of the hours I do, I've never really had that sort of time. So it's that's been a nice thing to be able to have the time to do that.
Fantastic. Again, it's keeping that mind of ours occupied, isn't it? It's keeping ourselves going, whether it be, I've spoken to a number of people that have said, I've been doing online courses, or I've been looking at different ways of doing things, or as you said, sort of looking at various books and sort of starting to read. And of course, volunteering, it's not something that's actually come up yet, but that's actually a great point, there's an opportunity now to help out where we can, I suppose. And that in itself, it keeps and again, correct me here if I'm wrong, because it's your experience here, but I can imagine that it's not only kept you going, kept your mind going, but there's also been a sense of, fulfillment, gratification, something like that, just to come away from that situation and say, do you know what? I've done something really good today, or I've given back, or something like that. There must be... Exactly.
I mean, to be honest, how the volunteer centre works, you have certain tasks that you sort of complete each week, but you get a phone call saying, do you mind, there's somebody who needs some medication, or somebody who needs their shopping done for them. And in the past, that I would never have been able to say, yeah, sure, I can jump in the car and do that, not a problem at all. And so to be able to do that at this time is nice, to be able to, at least I've got to take advantage of the time that I can do. I do like to read. I have a number of kind of books that I've been very fortunate that the leaders I've had over the years have given me. But normally I've had to read them at pace. I want to get to the end, start the next one. I'm actually able to sit and digest, and it doesn't feel any pressure. I'm actually probably reading it more for enjoyment rather than to learn now, and which is good. So I am rereading a few things and realizing, I missed that, and I'm sure I can't remember that. So that's been an interesting time. And again, just by having a routine of when I do it and that kind of thing, it feels it doesn't feel like there's any sort of effort. It feels quite a relaxing time at the moment.
Definitely. And I suppose we've obviously understood, I suppose, from your experience, what you've been going through, but also what's been keeping you motivated. I suppose finally, what advice would you give to other people at a similar level to yourself, or just across the board, that find themselves on the job market right now in the hospitality industry, that are desperately trying to find a job? I suppose, what advice would you give to them from your experience?
Okay, so obviously I'm still looking for work, so please take my advice with a pinch of salt, because but I knew you were going to ask this question. So I made a few notes, but there's three things that I think are important. First of all, is get your curriculum vitae, get your LinkedIn profile. They have to be up to date. And they also have to be adapted to the roles to which you're applying. So that's kind of the most important things. Then it's stay connected, and then it's stay relevant. In regards to the CV, there's an article I read just recently that said the CVs are scanned, and it's between 6 and 10 seconds a CV is scanned for. And in this article, it listed 8 things that somebody scans before deciding whether or not they're going to delve a bit deeper. And I've made a note of these. So it's the professional summary, gets scanned. Then it's the headings for the career history. So is it easy to follow? So, listing all of your jobs with one particular company under one heading of that company, rather than making it pages and pages. So it's professional summary, career history headings. Your cover letter needs to be on point for the job that you're applying. The qualifications, your recent role, any volunteer work, addressed to the correct person, and no spelling errors. So they were the 8 that they listed, and all of that gets scanned between 6 and 10 seconds. And if anything in that's wrong, your CV doesn't get read. So I thought that was an interesting article, and certainly one that I've made sure I've kept myself focused. So that's the first one: get your CV right, get your LinkedIn profile right. Yeah. Then it's stay connected. It's very easy to fall away because you're not seeing everybody every day. In the world of hotels, you don't only deal with your immediate team or your immediate region, you deal out of region, you get advice from people, you maybe have to have a connection with somebody other side of the planet, and it always leads to a small conversation, maybe you get some tidbits of advice. Keep those connections alive. It's really important, one, for your mental stimulation, and 2, just because they're going to be able to give you the heads up and keep you updated with what's happening. And that leads me to the third one, which is, so it's get your CV right, stay connected, and then it's stay relevant. It is a massively changing environment at the moment. And quite frankly, doing what you did prior to COVID to now, all the jobs are different jobs, and you need to stay relevant. So be completely on top of this. So, there are various hotel journalism, there's, breakingtravelnews.com, there's LinkedIn, Hosper, HSMI, recruitment agents have been great providing information. There's a lot of things on LinkedIn, there's industry leading companies, there's STR, there's Rate Gain Connect, all this stuff. Spend some time every single day, put aside to staying connected. I mean, the world's changing. I mean, there was an article not long ago that said that flights into Brussels have gone from weekly to daily. Have gone from daily to weekly. Now, this means that people now traveling on business, even though there's less people traveling on business, they have to stay over. Now, you would never have focused that if you didn't know that the airline industry has changed, and it's massive. There's the change in smaller weddings. We all know that hotels have gone from really not focusing on the smaller weddings because restaurants and venues were stealing them. Then now there's a premium for hygiene. So now there's a premium for hygiene. That some American blue chip companies, the medical insurance doesn't cover them anymore if they travel because of COVID. So therefore, American blue chip corporate accounts that you've spent years negotiating are irrelevant till there's a vaccine. But when there's a vaccine, there'll be and it's huge. There's blended meetings are a new thing now, where half people are virtual and half are on site. And I've got a massive list in front of me. You've got Etihad Airways, you would say is a luxury airline. They have got a pre-sale voucher deal going on because it brings in cash flow. Now, luxury never would have gone with pre-sale in the past, but cash flow is massively important now because of the demand levels of flight. So there's huge amounts of interesting stuff that's happening that means we need to deal with business differently. And I think that's really important. So it's, get your CV right, stay connected, stay relevant. Actually, there's a website which is covidinnovations.com where it's listing all of the things people are doing to deal with COVID. So new apps that have been developed, new products that people have. It's a really interesting website, and it's not all relevant, but it's different ways of working, and it's quite good to kind of dip in every now and again, see what's going on. So that's kind of my 3 bits.
Fantastic.
For what it's worth.
For anybody that's watching this episode, please do take obviously these 3 pieces of advice, see what you do with them. Of course, I know that Graham and I would love to see what advice you would give to other candidates that are currently on the market. And what we might do actually, Graham, I might put that link in the description down below just so people can click on it and look at the innovations in COVID. So we'll definitely do that. Graham, thank you so much for obviously taking the time out to talk to us today. This is an incredibly important initiative to just give candidates on the market the platform that they do deserve. And I don't think we're hearing enough from the people on the ground feeling it the most. And I think that we need to be hearing more of it. So hopefully people will take the same track as yourself and feel motivated to come on the show. So no, thank you so much for being an advocate of this, and thank you for appearing.
No, thank you so much. I think this is a fantastic initiative. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Graham. And guys, don't forget to check who's on next week's episode now.